The pagan history of Europe means that the entire development, their entire development as nations, as societies, as a so-called civilization, was guided by waswasa, by the whispering of shaitan. And as we know, when they did adopt Christianity, they remained pagan, with only a flimsy veneer of tawheed on top of that. It was a rebranding, if you will, a rebranding of paganism. So the waswasa in Europe, in the West, wasn't stopped by the church. They just modified it. They just modified the messaging, just like when a company rebrands and they change their marketing strategy. The way that their whole so-called civilization developed has made violence and pillage and inevitability. They've never known how to assign value properly. And they built their whole society and their whole character on this confusion. This is why until today, they still believe that wealth constitutes worth, violence constitutes strength, conquest constitutes superiority. They had this Iblis-led superficiality in their understanding of the world then, and they have it now. There's no way to divorce Western so-called civilization and colonization from their origins, their roots, and their whole development in kufr. Western colonialism, colonization, imperialism, and so on. These are all manifestations and expressions of the kufr of their so-called civilization, originating from their wrong assignment of value because of kufr, lack of appreciation because of kufr, dissatisfaction because of kufr, their inflated sense of their own importance because of kufr, and their violent supremacism because of kufr. We have to recognize and we have to understand that Western colonization is an imposition of confusion and misguidance, a confusion and misguidance that could not be inflicted upon the Muslims except by savage violence and oppression and by force. And they want us to be as confused and misguided as they are. They want us to assign value according to that same shaitanic formula. I mean, every ayah that you read in the Quran about the way the kuffar think, the way they feel, the way they view the world, the way they view life, you have to understand that this is what they call civilization, what they call advanced and evolved, what they say is superior and enlightened, literally kufr. Literally every blameworthy attitude and perspective that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us that the kuffar have, the attitudes and the perspectives that have made them lost, made them neurotic and violent and depressed and miserable, they want us to follow suit. They want all of that for us. So don't have it anywhere in your mind that the West is superior, that it's better, or that it's more advanced. The ayah in Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what the proper criteria of value is, which is taqwa, which is piety, it's righteousness. And then he's telling us the value irrelevance of race, tribe, gender, nationality, and so on. And in Surah Ar-Rum, the irrelevance in terms of value of color and language. And in Al-Ma'idah, the value irrelevance of class, of family, and even of self. And each of these ayat provide further clarification of what is actually the criteria of value: piety, knowledge, justice, and truthfulness, righteousness. These are the qualities of superiority. These are the qualities of value and honor and importance. And they have nothing whatsoever to do with material status, with external appearance, with race, with ethnicity, strength, power, wealth, so on and on and on. They have to do with belief, with understanding, with character, with integrity, and the prioritization of these qualities above and beyond even family, even tribe, even racial or nationalistic interests. These are truly civilized values, because anyone can be righteous, regardless of his or her wealth, regardless of his or her race or color or nation. None of those incidental characteristics denote superiority or value. And as incidental, value irrelevant characteristics, they cannot be the basis of conflict. They can't be the basis of rivalry or resentment or war or conquest. They can't be the basis of tyranny and oppression. They can't be the basis of privilege or the denial of privilege. They can't be the basis of any sort of sense of supremacy or entitlement. And our civilization developed around these concepts. We didn't pretend to adopt these concepts, these values, by just, slapping them on our cultural advertising like stickers. Our culture grew from these concepts. And Western civilization, so-called civilization, is built around the absence of these ayat. So just contemplate what sort of ugliness that would create. Racism, classism, misogyny, brutality, nepotism, favoritism, prejudice, xenophobia, exploitation, on. And of course, colonization and violent conquest, subjugation, etc., etc. Everything that we know and associate with the West. And what I'm telling you is that the West, the collective West, Europe and America, represents centuries upon centuries of misguidance, kufr, and following waswasa. These people are multi-generational victims of shaitan. And one of the most insidious aspects of their supremacist mentality is that it seals them off from guidance. It makes them think that waswasa is the voice of enlightened reason. And because they are the most influenced by waswasa, they think that they have a monopoly on reason and rationality, while they are, century after century, the most confused, misled, uncivilized, unevolved, backwards people on the planet. But shaitan has inoculated them against self-awareness, against ever seeing themselves for how they really are. And part of how he did that was precisely by making them believe that they're superior and everyone else is inferior. You know, it's like a cult that can only be sustained by making sure that all of their members never talk to people outside of the cult. So they eventually become intellectual inbreds, only ever listening to their own version of reality. Their thoughts and perceptions are forever kept within their own ideological gene pool. So just like with actual inbreeding, they become mutants, deformed. Defects develop intellectually, ideologically, morally, and in terms of character. That's what happens when you base superiority on anything other than piety and righteousness. You start to give honor and importance to impious, wicked people, just because they meet your criteria of value-irrelevant characteristics. And then that elevation and that honor gives validity and respectability to impiety and to wickedness. And from there, the mutations and the deformations just keep continuing on, generation after generation, and that's the West. That's what the West has done to their own people, which is why their people have done so much harm to the world. There are tragic people whose hands have wrought tragedies all around the globe. They aren't saviors. They need to be saved themselves. And you're doing yourselves and you're doing them a gross disservice by thinking otherwise about them, or by allowing them to think otherwise about themselves for even a second.